In the last part, we explored how the seeker within us awakens when we turn our face towards the positive, towards that source of guidance, the divine within and without. That's what unfolds in the Bhagavad Gita as chapter 2 begins. Krishna very patiently, very lovingly listened to what otherwise might be called as all of Arjuna's complaints. His very grief-laden state that was expressed to Krishna as a friend would to another friend. And Krishna heard. The divine sees us for who we are in every state of our being. And Krishna's response is quite amazing. Krishna smiles. And then Krishna begins to help Arjuna expand the scope of his understanding. When we're at those crucible moments, when we really find ourselves at a crossroads that is beyond our understanding, the first thing that the divine helps us do is put life into perspective. Even the greatest of challenges, the greatest of difficulties and pains can be seen in a broader light that helps us remember that there is goodness in life. There is a way forward. That perspective is what Krishna begins with. The divine is able to help us see life in a new way and to remind ourselves that freedom is our birthright. Immortality is our birthright. That's what Krishna begins to talk about in chapter 2. He reminds Arjuna about the deeper essential nature of our being. This idea that immortality is the very essential nature of ourself goes to the very heart of what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. And really, if you look more broadly, the much, much wider pool of knowledge in the yoga tradition. Source texts like the Upanishads, of which the Bhagavad Gita is said to be drawing from, deriving from, and sharing the essence of this living wisdom of the Upanishads. Our essential being is free. We're born free, we live free, and we leave this world free. Because the essential nature of our soul is immortal. There's a pristine nature of ourself which transcends whatever we know about ourself today. And that's what Krishna begins to remind Arjuna. It's quite intriguing that Krishna starts from a very lofty place in answering Arjuna. He doesn't go to the practicalities of asking Arjuna exactly why he feels the way he does and getting into the nitty-gritties of the specific situation. He zooms out at a tremendous macro level, and he reminds Arjuna of the essential nature of the self. That perspective is awe-inspiring, to remember who we are and to remember that we are free because we have a profound nature of our immortal self, which supports all aspects of our life in the world. We begin from this vantage point. And I'll read you a few verses from chapter 2 that illustrate this. So starting around chapter 2, verse 11, and then moving from there is where Krishna begins teaching Arjuna, inspiring Arjuna in a more formal sense. And he reminds Arjuna that the wise live in the present. And the way that he's expressing it is that the learned grieve neither for those who have passed on, nor for those who have not departed. Live in the present. Don't be stuck in the past, and don't fixate on the future. The source of joy and peace lies in being anchored in the present. And he reminds Arjuna as it goes into verse 12 and 13 that just as the soul, while in this body, physical body passes through stages of childhood, adulthood, and then old age, so also does the soul move beyond this life into another life and more. Soul enjoys being in this body and then is reborn in a new body. This is the articulation of the law of karma and reincarnation in a very succinct way. So the soul attains another body, and the wise person is not bewildered by this. It's another reminder of the transitory nature of all of the details of life. But the essentials of life are very, very stable. We can count on them. And we're profoundly supported, nourished, and guided by that fundamental force which nurtures us in this life, in this body, and beyond. And this theme continues through many more verses in chapter 2. It continues by talking about how the wise one, this is in verse 15, for whom suffering and happiness, sukha and dukkha, pleasure and pain, are held in balance. That one is prepared for immortality. There's a sense of equanimity in spite of these dualities. That equanimity in the face of the dualities, the paradoxes of life, prepares us for immortality because it's a reflection of that immortality itself. All this is indestructible. All which pervades this universe is indestructible. No one is able to bring about the destruction of the ever-present. And it goes on describing, and then in verse 30, the embodied, meaning the soul, eternally indestructible, dwells within the body of everyone, O Arjuna. Therefore, you should not grieve for any living being. We should celebrate life, enjoy every moment, work hard to transform our circumstances, our surroundings, our experience of life, to reflect the joy that we're seeking. But remember, there's an eternal nature of ourself which holds all of this in balance, and which ultimately is what can assuage any grief and sorrow, can help us transcend any conflict we find ourselves in, and put us back on the path towards the experience of our intrinsic goodness.